The Trump administration is ending long-standing deportation protections for tens of thousands of immigrants from Honduras and Nicaragua. The Department of Homeland Security announced on Monday that it is terminating the Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, for these individuals, a move affecting an estimated 76,000 people. This decision is the latest in a series of similar revocations and follows a recent announcement concerning immigrants from Venezuela. In its statement, the DHS argued that the conditions that originally warranted the special status have now sufficiently improved. Specifically regarding Nicaragua, the protection was first granted 25 years ago in 1999, following a devastating natural disaster. The department emphasized that this designation was never meant to last for such an extended period and concluded that the environmental situation has stabilized enough for its citizens to safely return home. A DHS spokesperson framed the decision as a necessary step to restore integrity in our immigration system, ensuring that TPS remains a temporary, not a permanent solution. Those affected, many of whom have built lives and families in the U.S. over decades, will now enter a designated wind-down period. During this time, they must either make arrangements for their departure or attempt to secure another form of legal residency. Staying on domestic policy, a major legal battle is now brewing over federal health care funding. Planned Parenthood's national organization filed a lawsuit on July 7th, seeking to block a key provision in the recently signed One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The group argues that the new law, which President Donald Trump signed on the 4th of July, unconstitutionally targets its network of clinics with a year-long funding ban. At the heart of the lawsuit is a clause that imposes a one-year moratorium on Medicaid reimbursements to certain healthcare nonprofits. While the statute does not mention Planned Parenthood by name, the lawsuit contends that its wording is deliberately crafted to single out the organization. The law specifically applies to nonprofits that received more than $800,000 in Medicaid reimbursements during fiscal year 2023. In its legal complaint, Planned Parenthood asserts that this description creates a set made up almost entirely of Planned Parenthood members. Medicaid, a joint federal and state program, is a critical source of health insurance coverage for low-income Americans and a major component of Planned Parenthood's funding for non-abortion-related services. The lawsuit represents the latest flashpoint in the long-running and contentious political debate over public funding for the organization. Turning now to international relations and trade, President Donald Trump is moving forward with his strategy of applying unilateral tariffs to key trading partners. On July 7th, the president issued letters announcing new 25% tariffs on goods from both Japan and South Korea, set to take effect on August 1st. The announcement, which was released on the social media platform Truth Social, is aimed at nations that have not yet reached new trade agreements with his administration. In the letters addressed to the leaders of Japan and South Korea, President Trump warned that these tariffs could potentially be increased if the countries raise their own trade barriers or fail to address what he describes as long-standing trade imbalances with the United States. He also signaled a path for de-escalation, noting that the tariffs might be lowered if the nations agree to open their markets and reduce non-tariff barriers. In a direct statement within the letters, the president wrote, quote, "Please understand that the 25% number is far less than what is needed to eliminate the trade deficit disparity we have with your country." End quote. This move is consistent with the administration's broader trade policy, which utilizes the threat of tariffs as leverage to renegotiate existing deals and pressure allies into making concessions. Meanwhile, in news from the Justice Department, federal investigators have released their final conclusions on the case of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. In a memo released on July 7th, the Department of Justice and the FBI stated that, after an exhaustive review, they have officially determined that Epstein committed suicide in his Manhattan jail cell in August of 2019. This finding concurs with the results of the initial autopsy conducted at the time of his death. Epstein was awaiting trial on federal child sex trafficking charges. The joint agency review also addressed years of intense public speculation and conspiracy theories regarding a client list. The memo states that no such record or list of his clients has been found within the government's extensive investigative holdings. In what appears to be an effort to bring a close to the federal investigation, the agencies announced that they would not be releasing any further material related to the case. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the release of the memo. While closing the door on the investigation, the document did not mince words about the scope of Epstein's crimes, noting that the sex trafficker harmed over 1,000 victims. And finally, a new government report is providing a detailed look at voter participation in the 2024 presidential election. According to a comprehensive survey issued to Congress by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, more than 158 million Americans cast a ballot last year as Donald Trump reclaimed the White House. The report shows that voter turnout stood at 64.7% of the citizen voting age population. That figure represents the second highest participation rate in the past 5 presidential contests, trailing only the record-setting election of 2020. While turnout was down a slight 3% from 4 years prior, the report highlighted a record high in voter registration. More than 211 million people were registered as active voters, accounting for over 85% of voting-age citizens. The Commission's data also reveals shifts in how Americans voted. Nearly 3/4 of all ballots were cast in person, with a near-even split between those voting early and those voting on Election Day itself, 35.2% and 37.4% respectively. The remaining 30.3% of ballots were cast by mail. While that's a notable drop from the 43% who voted by mail during the pandemic in 2020, it is still significantly higher than mail-in voting rates in pre-pandemic elections, suggesting a lasting change in voting habits for a portion of the electorate. The election resulted in Republicans taking back control of the Senate and holding their majority in the House.